What is up, everyone? Welcome to the first installment of TCR Mock Draft Monday. This is going to be a weekly show with myself, and we've got our special guest, Red Sea, who also, as of recently, writes for Raising Zona. So check out his work there. And we're going to be looking at mock drafts. We're going to be talking about players that might be fits for the Cardinals. Every time, this time of year, every year, I kind of start diving into, the draft. I know for Corey here, it's always draft season, but for me, I kind of start getting into knowing who the prospects are right about this time of year. And this show is going to be a way for really, to be honest, for me to kind of get to know the prospects a little more, start doing some of my own homework and diving in. And hopefully for you watching, it'll be an opportunity to also get to know who some of the prospects are. Talk about some of the players that might be a good fit for the Cardinals, and also just be involved with, the actual, with putting your own mock drafts in. And, I've got about 3 mock drafts from members of our community this week. And, every week we're going to do mock drafts from folks who are, part of our community and our audience, and, information on how to get your mock drafts on the show are in the description below, and we'll go over your mock drafts every week and respond to them, talk about them. So Corey, how are you today, sir?
It is cold. It is cold.
Okay.
Up here in Connecticut, there's this thing. You see this thing that I'm wearing? It's called a winter jacket.
Okay.
It's for inches of snow. Inches, plural. People in Arizona don't get that.
Yeah.
Snow can fall in more than 1 inch.
Well, I'm in Georgia, so we're in North Georgia. They get snow, but not where I'm at. So it's a little chilly, but not as cold as we are. I want to say hey to Mark Jackson. Don't think he's going to watch it. Oh, he put a comment. He's tired of going to bed. Oh, Mark. Well, I hope you.
Mark.
So what we're going to do is, we're each, Corey and I have each prepared a mock draft, and we've also prepared like a player that we want to kind of talk about. Do just a quick introduction of a player each week that's kind of interesting to us. Players that we would like to see maybe the Cardinals have a chance to get and talk. We're going to talk about just kind of help you learn about prospects as we're learning about them. We're each going to talk through a mock draft that each of us prepared. And then we're going to look at your mock drafts and kind of talk about them. I want to say hey to some of the folks. Chedison McGraw, thank you for being here. No worries, Mark. We appreciate your great support of the channel. We are good. How are you? Thanks for being here. So we're going to jump right into it. And, I asked Corey to prepare. Actually, let me go here. And he's going to talk about a player named Drake London and introduce y'all to who Drake London is and talk about how he might be a fit if the Cardinals were able to land him.
All right, so pretty much we all remember what happened on Thursday Night Football. AJ Green didn't turn around. And it wasn't just that game. It was really a season-long thing where AJ Green just didn't give effort. Drake London solves that problem instantly. You see the size, 6'5", 210. What I really love about him, though, he catches with his hand. A lot of receivers just see catch with their body. But Drake London, he reaches his hands out and snags the ball out of the air. It's amazing to watch, and he does not go down. It takes the whole defense to bring him down.
Awesome. Okay, so he's a big receiver. How is and I read up a little bit, but what's his speed like, and can you talk about any other issues or traits that might be relevant about Drake?
For 6'5", 210, he's got some pretty nice long speed. Mm-hmm. It takes him a little while to get going, but for 6'5", 210, he can move. He can definitely move.
Yeah, he's an interesting player, and I think, I talked about this in the video I just posted last night, and if y'all haven't checked it out, I got a video up on 5 kind of budget-free agents, and one of the things, we really learned about Cliff Kingsbury is he really does want those big receivers on the outside. I think his, first couple of years he didn't have that big receiver across, from Hopkins. So we didn't see that. They were playing Christian Kirk on the outside, and but this year they brought in AJ Green, and for all the criticisms, what we saw though is the type of receiver he seems to want out there, that 50-50 ball between him and Antoine Wesley. And even you look at Hopkins, he may not be the biggest receiver, but he's very good at 50-50 balls. So I know I've been looking at big receivers a lot, maybe a little bit later in the draft, but Drake London, you and I before the show had a little bit of maybe a debate on him. Like, I don't think he's going to last that long, but I know there's an injury, that some people think he might last later into the first round because of that. But he certainly fits that mold, right? I want to say, hey, we got Bass String. What's up, Professor? I'm late for class as always. Yes, you are, but that's okay. Better late than never. Grandmaster, thank you for being here. Hey, Joe and Red Sea. You're both doing well. Great content, Joseph. Thanks for all your hard work. Hitting the like button, show support. Thank you. Well, I appreciate you. And I believe you're a Dolphins fan, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I just really appreciate your support and not being a Cardinals fan, but still being here. That just really means a lot. So the player that I kind of I've already been talking about him for a while in our Discord, which, by the way, I have a Discord server with that. There's a lot of great conversation throughout the week. We've got a channel in the Discord server, Be the GM, where we talk this stuff all the time. Red Sea's regularly in there. So there's a link below. You should jump into the Discord if you're interested. Travis Jones is a player that one of the first players that I kind of latched on to as a player that I'm really intrigued by. So he's out of Connecticut, where you're at, UConn. He's a junior. He's an interior defensive lineman, 6'5", 333, huge defensive lineman, but he's really, really strong. They kind of say he's like a traditional nose tackle, but he does have, like, I think 7 sacks over 2 seasons, and I think it was 27 hurries. So he does get a little bit of pass rush. He's not a pure pass rusher. He doesn't have pass rush moves. It's usually more power, but he wins with strength. He doesn't get pushed around. And when I look at Travis Jones, he's a guy who is probably going to go on day 2. Somewhere second, third round is where a lot of projections are. I've heard some projections as late as 4th round, because they see him as a pure nose tackle, and nose tackles are 2-down players. But I think he could be on the Cardinals defense, maybe a little more, play a little bit of that. They play a lot of the 4-2 fronts in the nickel, and he could be one of those interior defensive linemen. Anyway, I look at him as this really big, powerful interior defensive lineman who's very good against the run, which we talked about all last season was an issue for them. And if they miss out on one of the 2 Georgia tackles in the first round, to me, Jones is a guy they might be able to pick up in the second round. I don't think he'll last to the third round. We'll see. So I'm really intrigued by him. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Travis Jones?
Well, yes, he is from UConn, but I don't go to UConn. I know where UConn is, but I don't go there. Travis Jones, yes, I see why you would think he's just going to be a pure nose tackle, or not saying you specifically, but consensus
folks,
would.
yeah.
He's 6'4", 330. We'll give him, but he can play nose tackle. Obviously, he can play pure defensive tackle. In dire situations, he could even kick out to edge on like Hail Mary downs when you just want a strong guy to rush the passer for extra pressure. I don't like Jordan Davis because he literally is just a nose tackle. Mm-hmm. He will be on the field for 2 plays out of a 5-play drive. And on those 2 plays, he'll be great. But the other 3 plays, he won't be out there. So, why?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Bass String is talking about we don't need those baby receivers, going back to what we were talking about before. Yeah, we've got enough of our small underneath receivers. Yeah, I think, they talk about you don't want just a pure nose tackle modern enough, or you don't pay a lot for or draft high at pure nose tackle because they're not on passing downs. But I think Travis Jones, although he's not a pure pass rusher, I think he's got enough power and gets enough push up field that you put him on the inside, rotate him in there on those interior defensive linemen, even on passing downs. I could see that happening. So we're gonna jump into now that we've kind of each done and each week we're gonna just kind of pick one player and kind of do a little bit of a profile. we're gonna go into the first mock draft, which is Corey's mock draft, and he's going to just kind of tell us what he was thinking with each of his picks, and then and before we get into it, folks in the chat, what I'd like you to do as you're watching us go through these mock drafts, Corey's, my mock draft, and the 3 that folks submitted online, I want you to, in your mind, find who you think was the best pick in any mock draft we went through today. And at the end, I'm going to ask you what was your favorite pick of all the mock drafts? So just kind of think about that as we go through these, and I'll ask you at the end of the stream, and then we'll kind of go from there. So Corey, tell us about what you were thinking with this mock draft.
Well, here in the first round, I was really tempted to grab an edge rusher. I see that comment, by the way. I love Jalen Tolbert. I was really tempted to get an edge rusher. I refused to pick Jordan Davis, but he was gone already, so I didn't have to. But at this point, I was like, if we get an interior defensive lineman now, we're going to wait on edge rusher. But if we get an edge rusher, we're going to wait on interior defensive lineman. How about we grab a guy who can do both? And that's what I did in the first round here with DeMarvin Leal, or Leal, however you want to pronounce his last name. He is a freak of nature. Think Chris Jones. Literally, that's it. Think Chris Jones. And not the corner Chris Jones, the defensive tackle Chris Jones.
Right, from the Chiefs.
Yeah, the good Chris Jones.
Right.
I did love Chris Jones. In the second round, I was really tempted with corner. Really tempted. But a lot of the corners that I would have liked were already gone, or I just didn't think they deserved this pick. So I went safe. I grabbed an offensive lineman because I don't know what Justin Pugh is going to do, or what we're going to do with Justin Pugh. I like Josh Jones, which is a very uncommon opinion in the Cardinals fandom right now. But I like Josh Jones at either tackle or guard. And Darren Kennard can also play tackle or guard. Great movement skills. Fair plug and play at either guard spot wherever he plays. And in dire situations, he can even switch out to right tackle.
All right, yeah, and I looked at your draft because I had the benefit of being doing that, and I liked what you're thinking because both, Neil is definitely Leal is definitely kind of a very physically gifted player. I think what I read about him was the production didn't live up to that, but that's a player. If you have a player with tools like that, you can develop them. That's worth looking at. Kennard was interesting because he's a tackle in college, but they said he's going to be a guard at the next level. He just physically, he is built like a guard, and that's what he's going to play unless he really does something to reshape his body. He seems like a guy who has a lot of physical tools, but does need a little bit of work. But those are a couple interesting, potential, players with traits. So from there, so then you went on to Mikhail Wright. Got Kirk's Legacy in here. I think kick return is Clive Jackson. Is that the guy from Houston, University of Houston, the cornerback who's a returner that you're talking about? Maybe.
I think it's Marcus Jones, but anyway.
Okay. So anyway, yeah. So go on with Darren Kennard played pretty decent. He's an SEC offensive line player. Yeah. Okay. So tell us about some of the rest of your picks now.
All right.
So, okay.
So here in the third, it was pretty easy to just go edge rusher with what remaining top end edge talent was still available, which was shockingly available. But I figured I couldn't ignore it anymore. Even if we signed a guy in free agency, I had to. So I went with Mikhail Wright, who, in my opinion, would probably play full-time slot, kind of be like a Byron Murphy underwing to Byron Murphy. He's just a little undersized, not height-wise, weight-wise. He's 5'11", listed at 178. I'd like to see him maybe get to 190 if he get there. But great ball hawk, always around the football, is aggressive when he makes tackles. Just a little undersized. It's really all it is. It's really the only knock on him. That's the only reason he's available down here, or else he'd be gone in early day too.
So we got a question. Mr. Mono's asking, what wide receiver did you forego in the third round?
What wide receiver did I forego in the third round? I think it was Jalen Tolbert and Romeo Doubs.
Okay.
Were the wide receivers I passed on.
Oh, Giles Jackson plays for Washington. Okay, that's okay. Thank you, Kirk's Legacy. Gotcha. Okay, well, okay. Hold hopefully climb to first to Adrian Wilson for the draft this year. Yeah, here's hoping, right?
Well, hopefully.
We need to draft a kicker. All right, so let's get through the rest of your picks. And then we'll jump to my draft. So let's get through. Tell us quickly about the rest of the players that you picked here.
I'll run through the rest of these really quick because a lot of these are just pretty straightforward. Dontaria Drummond I just grabbed the bigger receiver who fits the spread system at which he played in Ole Miss. Fits the spread system, very competitive, makes guys miss in the open field, plug and play if we don't get an upgrade at receiver in free agency. Jerrion Ealy, it's literally Chase Edmonds, and we're probably going to lose Chase Edmonds because I think we're going to re-sign James Conner.
Mm-hmm.
So grab another Chase Edmonds to be Chase Edmonds and move on. Here in the 7th, you're probably going to see a difference because I traded for one of these picks because we're projected to have 3 7th-round picks. So I got an extra 7th-round pick, which I think was $255. But anyway, here I was just looking for depth. And I went pure nose tackle with LeBron Ray out of Alabama. And then I went Christopher Allen, edge rusher, 3-4 outside linebacker out of Alabama. It's never a bad idea to pick Alabama players, almost ever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last pick, I just figured take a shot on a guy with high traits. So I took Christian Jones out of Texas for right tackle. Very developmental.
Yeah, and at that point in the draft that you're looking for, players with traits that you can, with some time, develop them. I like the rationale of taking if all else fails, all other things being equal, Alabama doesn't Alabama recruits play really good athletes. So even if they didn't live up to it, there's probably some raw clay to mold there. So that makes sense. In fact, you'll see in my mock draft I did a little bit of that too. All right, so let me walk through. We'll go to kind of my mock draft here real quick and kind of talk about. Here's what I came up with, the one that I decided that I liked of the mock draft. I did multiple, but this was the one I really liked. So starting off, defensive interior with Devontae Wyatt. He's one of the 2 Georgia tackles, but I like him better as a fit because he is the more complete of the tackles. When you think about the way the Cardinals play, they're quote unquote a 3-4, but they play so much of that 4-2 front when they're in the nickel. And I think he would be like an interior defensive lineman who can move around. He can offer a little bit more in the pass rush, but he also plays well against the run. So I just think he would be just a really good fit there. In the 2nd round, I went with Kyler Gordon, the cornerback out of Washington. He was still on the board there. Some fans aren't going to love this, but the comparison to him in some ways is like he's this athletic freak, and PFF compares him to Byron Jones. And that's actually who I compared Marco Wilson to in the post-draft when I did my video on Marco Wilson. And I know people, we don't need another Marco Wilson. I will say Gordon graded better than Wilson did in college, but he does have those kinds of physical traits. And then in the 3rd round, this is a player that shows up on a lot of my mock drafts, Josh Paschal. He's an edge. He's listed as an edge rusher out of Kentucky, but he's 6'3", 278. That is just an inch shorter and 3 pounds lighter than Zach Allen, who plays an interior defensive lineman. So I really gravitate towards Josh Paschal because as an edge rusher, he's okay. He's not amazing, but he's really good against the run. He is like the prototypical Bill Belichick draft pick, a guy who is good against the run, can give you enough in the pass rush, is scheme versatile, can move all up and down the front. And I just envisioned him for the Cardinals when they're in a 3-4 look, playing at the defensive end, kind of like Zach Allen does. When they move to the nickel look, they could play him as a defensive end. He can move all the way up and down there, and he is an edge rusher, but he's really good against the run, and we know that's something they needed help with. So a guy in the 3rd round who can help with stopping the run, but also help bring depth to pass rushing and can play all up and down that line. I just really liked him. Before I go through the rest of my picks, any thoughts you want to jump in with on those first 3 picks?
I love the Devontae Wyatt pick. I was really considering him in the 1st round, but I kind of didn't like him picking at 23. Thought it was a little rich. Mm-hmm. Kyler Gordon, I've come to grown on him. Like, early on, I didn't like Kyler Gordon because the only tape I could find out of him was special teams tape where he was an we'll just say all pro caliber because I don't remember what the college thing is. And I can't really talk bad about Josh Pascal because he beat the you-know-what out of my Florida Gators. So I can't really talk bad about Josh Pascal because I would say he's 6'3" with 278, but he moves.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked to see him at pure outside linebacker because Chandler is like what 6'5", 260, something like that.
Yeah. Chandler's so
and Marcus is not much shorter.
Yeah, so he's built a little differently, but yeah, I mean, like I said, he's the prototypical build. I would not be shocked if the Patriots draft him. But I love him.
I live in Connecticut. In Connecticut. I don't need another Bill Belichick defensive stud to complain about for the next 20 years. Please no.
Right. All right. So Wolf saying we need someone to block Aaron Donald first and foremost. I hear you there. In a lot of my mock drafts, I go guard early. But that's a segue to my next pick, Luke Fortner. Now, Luke Fortner is a center, but he did play he played guard before switching to center. He's got some nice traits. They talked about, in the scouting report that he picked up guard very quickly and did a good job picking that up. So I think he's a guy who could, develop into a starting guard or eventually maybe, a replacement when Rodney Hudson retires and moves on. So I like him as a guy who, I know like, what he could be a better develop into what we were hoping Max Garcia was going to be. And I think the Cardinals need to pick up some offensive linemen to develop. So that's a guy I really liked there. And then let me get this comment here. 3 early picks on D would be a little unnerving given Vance Joseph how little. Listen, that's a good point. He doesn't play them. He needs to. We need him to play those rookies. But I hear you there.
It's beyond me why Zaven Collins doesn't play. It is beyond me.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So after Luke Fortner, so this is a guy who could develop into a start. Eventually, he's at least for now he could be a solid backup to start. He's a guy who could develop into a starting guard or eventually starting center. Then I have Rashad White out of Arizona State University, running back, and he I was thinking the same thing you were. He was a replacement for Chase Edmonds. In fact, PFF scouting report says that he has the best receiving skills of any running back in the draft. In fact, they say he's a candidate to maybe be converted to a receiver. They describe him as not being a real disciplined runner, like he's going to miss some holes between tackles. But if you use him on third down, right, and kind of let him be that third down receiving back, that could be a really nice pickup who has, impact right now, right? Wolflang is saying we draft all offensive line, D-line, and get skills and free agency. Maybe, or, there's an argument to be said for signing some players on some of those positions too. But I like going all over with the draft picks. Next, I'm drafted a punter. And
I don't blame you.
Matt Ariza is it's weird to say this, but he is a generational talent at punter. Just watch. There's some clips on him. In fact, some people.
Ray guy.
What's that?
Ray guy. Think Ray guy.
There you go.
Think Ray guy. It's ridiculous.
He actually was a place kicker for them too.
I know. Yeah, he has a couple 50-plus yard field goals.
Yeah,
which is another reason why I drafted him.
Some people think he could be that player who does both. I don't know that that's going to happen. But
if anyone could do it, he could.
Andy Lee's older; he's a free agent, and this guy, I'm intrigued by him. I take a. He lost me a draft a punter. I'm telling you, man, dude, watch film.
Watch Matt Ariza. Matt Ariza, and then come back.
Yeah, dude. Like, dude is a stud. You're not willing to. All right, I hear you. But
you're on YouTube right now. Open a new tab.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's pretty crazy. So I got him in the 6th round. Then I went with the same philosophy. I was looking for a tight end late in the draft. I wanted to get, a guy just kind of to be the third string to develop. And there were a couple tight ends out there, and they were all none of them were really accomplished or anything. But, I looked at it and had the same thought. Alabama doesn't recruit, Alabama doesn't recruit players who don't have physical skills. He's actually Cameron Latu is a former outside linebacker who converted to tight end, so he's still learning the position. But I'll take a chance on a developmental player with those kinds of skill sets. And then finally, William Dunkel. I was looking for an developmental offensive lineman. He graded well per PFF. He's not a highly touted player, and certainly you have to look at the competition playing at San Diego State, but his PFF grade in 2021 was like 95.2. So there's something to work with there. So that's kind of the rest of my draft. Let's get to some of the comments here, and not anywhere near the topics of mock drafts, but I keep thinking about our old receiving core: John Brown, Jaron Brown, J.J. Nelson, Larry Fitzgerald, Michael Floyd. Yeah, that was
back in the golden days when we were actually, we could expect to be good. Now we have no idea what to expect.
Nice. Now we have a question. Grandizers asked us question. Justin Red Sea, are cards not sold on don't think Lucky Fotu and Rashad Lawrence can be developed?
I'll let you answer that first. My answer is probably going to be a little bit more open-ended.
You want me to? Okay. Here's what I would say. I think they like Rashard Lawrence a lot, and I actually think he looked good when he played. It's just the health is the issue. But I remember late in the season when he finally got back healthy, he started playing, and he was one of the few guys who felt like he could defend the run. I like Rashard Lawrence if he's healthy. Lecky Fotu has not really developed to the way they would hope from what I can see. He hasn't played well. He's got some physical tools. I don't know if they're sold on. I think they believe in Rashad Lawrence probably more than Fotu, but obviously this is my mock draft. So, and this is us as fans talking about. So, I don't know if the Cardinals feel the same way we do, where a lot of us are thinking they need interior defensive linemen. I don't know if they feel that way. But I think I don't think they've been impressed with what they saw from Fotu. That's my opinion on the outside looking in. What do you think? What do you think, Corey?
Yeah, I'm kind of more in the same boat. I'm not sold on Lucky Fotu as a defensive tackle. I think he should just try to drop weight and convert to full-time defensive end. I don't know if he's fit for the nose tackle role. I love Rashard Lawrence. Rashard Lawrence because when Rashard Lawrence plays, our run defense is actually somewhat confident. Mm-hmm. Lucky Fotu's out of it. It's like Robert Nkemdiche, but without the personality issues. Like, he's out of his gaps a lot, and that's what really hurts. But other than, he has the physical tools to just dominate whenever he wants. But it's just he's out of his gaps sometimes, and it gets taken advantage of in the NFL. So if I would personally recommend Lucky Fotu either. I don't know how much he weighs. I think he's like 300, maybe.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He's a big guy. Who was, I'll tell you what it reminds me a little bit. He's a guy who has a lot of physical traits but hasn't developed. Well, I'm trying to remember the guy. There was a guy they drafted in the 4th round a few years back who ended up playing with them for a few years, then signed with Green Bay. He was out of I forget. He was out of an HBCU, and I don't remember his name, but it was a defensive lineman that they drafted anyway. He's a guy, but anyway, he's a guy who I think he's a guy who's got physical tools but hasn't developed the way they want. I don't mind what you're saying in terms of turn him into that 3-4 defensive end, play him more there than the nose.
I'd say just have him rush the passer instead of try and worry about the run.
Yeah. Mr. Romano's asking if they'll develop better since Buckner. Maybe it depends on who they bring in, I guess.
Maybe. I actually like Buckner, but
yeah. I don't know so I don't know if it's him though. Let me get a few comments. Obviously, Aaron Van Buren's here, so appreciate that.
Hey.
What's up, buddy? Aaron does the Thursday night show with me a lot of times, and good dude. Cardinals Conversation Core. He likes to rise a pick too, so he's not hating on the punters. Let's see. Let me just get a couple of the comments in here. Summer's saying Matt or Isaac could be drafted 3rd or 4th. He's like one of those throwback players. Listen, I don't doubt that. In fact, every time I take him this late, I think someone's going to take him before then. I don't think, and that's the thing with these mock drafts, right? That a lot of times it doesn't. Players end up being available much later than in the draft, these mock drafts, than they actually do. So I agree. I think he's going to probably go before the 6th round. There's been so much hype, right?
I'm telling you, the only reason, I don't mean to cut you off here, but the only reason I didn't draft him is because TDN does not have special teamers. It's the only reason I did not draft him. Because good God, Matt Araiza is good.
Right.
Matt Araiza is going to be around for a while. Just get used to that name. He's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just trying. Those aren't the players I'm thinking of. Oh man, he was a defensive tackle, and
I'm thinking of is Robert Nkemdiche, but he went to Jacksonville.
It was before then. He was a 4th round pick.
No, not Robert Nkemdiche. Rodney Gunter.
That's exactly who I'm thinking of. The Packers. Didn't he sign with the Packers?
No, he went to Jacksonville.
Did he go to Jacksonville? Okay.
I think he went. I think he went to Jacksonville. But anyway,
Rodney Gunter is who is a little bit who not necessarily that he's exactly the same player. Yep, he did go to Jacksonville. Yep. Okay, you're right. He reminds me that like he was a big player, 6'5", 305. Lucky Focha reminds me a little bit of him. There's a guy they drafted who has these really great physical traits who they had to develop a little bit. And, Rodney Gunter developed into a nice defensive tackle. He wasn't, a stud or anything, but he was a 4th round pick. He played for them and he was decent. And I don't think that Fotu's developed well enough to be like that yet. So, yeah. Yep. And then Jordan P likes the Araiza pick too because Andy Lee is old. Yep.
Andy Lee's like 100 years old.
Jordan P. We need Jordan Davis, him, Wyatt Phillips, a Watt and Phillips on a pay cut, or we could wreak havoc on the run easy. We could. I mean, listen, Jordan Davis is a great player, and I wouldn't hate it if they drafted him. Like I said, I went with Devontae Wyatt because I think he's a better scheme fit. He's more of a 3-down player, but listen, yeah, and you're right. He doesn't play now. That's right. He doesn't, but that's who I was looking at.
He had a heart condition. I feel really bad because I love Bradley Gunter. Yeah, he had a heart condition because I saw it on Twitter when he announced it.
That would make sense. Okay, so there you go. So anyway, that's who Gunter. Yeah, that's who. I'm sorry. That's who Focha reminds me a little bit of as a player. Anyway, so yeah, so that's kind of my draft. So we're going to go ahead. What we're going to do is we're going to get to the first draft that was submitted by a member of our community. And if you're in the stream now, like I said, in the description of the video, there's instructions on how to get your mock drafts in the show. And we're going to do at least a couple of them every week. So, if you want yours, us to kind of talk about yours and show yours, be sure to do that for next week's show. So here's the first one. This is Robert Moore. He's a really great supporter of the channel. He's in the Discord, which is another reminder, please, if you aren't on the Discord, there's a link below, join the Discord. There's like 90 of us in there. And, there's a lot of good conversations that we have in there. So this is Robert Moore's mock draft. So you've got Jermaine Johnson, edge rusher, in the first round. I'm seeing a lot of mock drafts mocking him to the Cardinals. Kyler Gordon, cornerback, same 2nd round pick as I had. Neil Farrell Jr. as a defensive interior lineman. Christian Watson. Zakondre White, I hope I'm not butchering that. Noah Ellis, defensive interior. Luke Fortner, a guy I picked a little bit earlier, and Zamir White. So what do you think of this one, Corey? What's your thoughts when you look at this mock draft?
I actually have not looked at Neil Farrell at all. I didn't even think he was coming out this year, but he's a senior, so he has to come out this year. Mm-hmm. I love the first 2 picks. Jermaine Johnson blew up the Senior Bowl. Senior Bowl is the Jermaine Johnson Bowl, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He murdered the Senior Bowl. Kyler Gordon, we've already talked about. Kyler Gordon has a lot of the traits that you look for and definitely has the length. Mm-hmm. A lot of these other players towards the end, I haven't really scouted besides Zamir White, so I can't really give solid opinions. And Zamir White is really just that power running back who can also catch a football.
Yeah. Hey, Aaron Van Buren, there's a center in there. Luke Fortner. There's an offensive line.
Yeah. We're representing
late,
you.
Yeah.
We're representing you, Aaron. We're representing.
Yep. So, okay. Yeah. Zamir White said to be a third, fourth round prospect. And again, sometimes we're early in the draft process, so sometimes the way these guys fall aren't, it'll get closer. And I know that PFF uses a lot of different data points for their kind of rankings, and how it's like fantasy football. The how the players are ranked in their system influences a lot how the mock drafts work out. So, yeah. Right. Lay down lineman, the Kai method. Yeah. We've all been kind of, yeah, there you go. Yeah. White is interesting. He's a guy who didn't have, and again, I'm still learning about all these players. Well, there's two Whites halfback. Zaquandre didn't have a lot of snaps, but he is an interesting player. Zamir White is interesting because I guess he was really a highly touted player, but had some injuries. So there's a lot of talent, but injuries. Noah Ellis is interesting. I was reading up on him, and he's a big guy who moves really well. There's a lot of interesting players in here. You went edge early. A lot of people going with that. You got a couple interior defensive linemen who are, could be really disruptive. A big developmental receiver. Couple halfbacks to center. Yeah, I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either. The Zaquandre White, though, just looking at the big red flag that I see that he was born in 1998. That's a big red flag that I see.
Okay.
Again, I haven't watched tape on him, but just reading that scares me because running backs do not have a long shelf life.
Right. Yeah, and here's the thing though.
But I haven't done scouting, so I can't say the pick is bad.
But what I love is that these are all day 3 running backs. I mean, when you're talking about 5th and 7th round picks, I'm a believer in that. Like draft a bunch of them. And even if he only plays 3 years, 4 years because of health, if you're talking about a 7th round pick and you get 3 solid years out of them, they contribute. Like a lot of 7th round picks don't even make rosters. So if you got a running back in the 7th round who gives you 3 to 4 years, that's a good pick in my opinion. So
that's a win.
Yes. So I really like what I like about this draft is I like the running backs on day 3. I'm a believer. Just do like San Francisco does. Get yourself a bunch of running backs, rotate them in, and you'll hit on some of them. I like getting a couple defensive interior linemen to shore that up. Jermaine Johnson's a guy who a lot of people are talking about. Obviously, I liked Kyler Gordon because I picked him too. So yeah, I like a lot of things that I'm seeing here. Yeah. And no more small receivers. Yeah, I'm here. I hear you. They need a bigger receiver.
Maybe one more.
Right.
Depending if Kirk comes back, maybe one more.
Right. All right. So any other thoughts on this mock draft before we move on to the next one?
No, not really. If we land Jermaine Johnson at 23, we better run out of that draft room because that is highway robbery.
Yeah. That
is ridiculous.
I have a feeling he'll be gone before then when it comes down to it. But,
I have him in the top 10.
Yeah. All right. So this is from Anthony Kennedy, who follows me on Twitter. So he submitted one. He's got, you see right off the bat, he's got my guy Travis Jones, right? So that's the guy. And I'll tell you, he's got my guy Matt Riza. And there's another player on this mock draft who's been on a lot of my mocks who I absolutely love in terms of his profile. That's you. Okay, awesome. Woohoo! So now I connect. Okay, so Anthony Kennedy is Mr. Mono. That's good to know. Sometimes the YouTube names are different than the Twitter. So I love some of the things on this draft. And let me just get Grandizer saying, I think it was said that Zamir White helped his stock in the last games of Georgia to include the championship game.
That's
true, though, injuries are what hold his stock in. Yeah. I think he's a guy who, but it was injuries. I think it held him back. So yeah. Yep. Now the mock, now to mock the mock. Just kidding. Yeah. Okay. Which one of these guys are next? Aaron Donald or anti-Aaron Donald? That's a good question. There's only one Aaron Donald. All right. So, we start out with Kenyon Green, who is widely viewed as the best guard in the draft. Right. Then we got Travis Jones, a guy I talked about earlier. We got Alec Pierce, who's a really intriguing big receiver who's got some speed. Hassan Haskins, who is a big back. He's like 6'1", 220, I think.
6'1", 220.
At least in terms of size, he's the closest thing to James Conner. He's actually a little smaller than Conner, but he's a big back, which I'm really a big fan of that. Cordell Flott, who is a guy who is like, I mean, LSU is cornerback you, right? I mean, they're just known for defensive backs coming out of there. He's not highly touted, he's not, I mean, obviously he's coming up as a day 3 pick on this draft. And I've seen him in a lot of mocks kind of around there. But, if you get when you've got a program like that puts out good defensive backs, if you're talking about a late round flyer, I don't mind taking a player from a program like that that's known to put out good defensive backs. Then we got another halfback, Tyler Beatty. So, kind of stacking up on the halfbacks like the last mock draft. Luke Fortner, another guy again who was on my mock draft, and then Matt Ariza. So there's a lot of players on this one that I like that have shown up on a lot of my mock drafts. And I really like Hassan Haskins. I mean, not that I've seen, I haven't seen much tape of him, but I just like, he's been productive. He's put up a lot of yards, got a little bit of receiving ability, but I love getting a big back in there, especially getting him 5th round. I really like that pick in particular. Alec Pierce is a nice big outside receiver, but you're getting him in round 3 instead of earlier. What are your thoughts on these picks?
I love this mock draft.
Mm-hmm.
I love this draft. Kenyon Green and Travis Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get 6'3", 213 Alec Pierce. Whew,
yeah.
That is a win.
Yeah. And
I really love how he drafted these running backs. I really love this. Because Hassan Haskins is 6'1", 220. But then if we go down to Mr. Tyler Beatty, who I'm currently losing his profile, there he is. Mm-hmm. He's 5'8", 194.
Mm-hmm.
2 completely different running backs. But we could use both of them.
Yeah. No, basically what he's done here, which I love, is he's kind of drafted for us replacements for Connor and Edmonds, right? Those roles.
Yeah, that way we don't have to keep Connor long term. We can just say stop the franchise tag on him this year, and we have Hassan Haskins, Tyler Beatty, and Benjamin next year.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with.
Yep. Yeah, I like this one a lot too. I think this is a really good and like you're saying, Beatty is a good receiving back, right?
Very good.
And I will say, and I've been saying this thing in a lot of my live streams when we've talked about running backs, and I've been saying between the two, I want to keep Connor and I'll let Edmonds walk, because, and anyone who's done these mock drafts, you've probably seen the same thing. Those 3rd down backs with some receiving ability who are a little bit smaller, there's a lot of them every year. Right, there are a lot of those in the draft, and Beatty, like I drafted a guy from Arizona State University on my mock draft. Beatty's another one, and there's a bunch of other ones like that, but there's only 1 or 2 guys in there like Hassan Haskins, right? That big back, right? So to me, you re-sign Connor and you draft someone like Beatty or someone like that. Grandizer saying that he likes this draft. He doesn't know about flop, but Haskins is big but not fast. Love to see what he runs to the combine. Beatty's another nice running back. But like with that big back, you don't need them. Like, he doesn't have that top end speed, but for that back, you don't need that. You need someone who's powerful and shifty. James Conner doesn't have top end speed, but he does well enough. So yeah. Chris is jumping in here. Can't stick around, but hope showing support. Thank you for doing that. Hope everyone's well. Hope you all have a good night. Appreciate you jumping in, Chris. So yeah, I like this mock draft a lot as well. I think there's a lot of players, like I said, on this mock draft that have shown up on a lot of my mock drafts and will probably continue to show up.
Oh yeah, I love this mock draft.
Yeah. So
and if you land Matt Ariza with the Mr. Irrelevant pick,
yeah, that's not happening. But listen,
that's not happening.
You for taking it.
If it happens, oh my God, we won't have to worry about kicks and punts for a long time.
Right. So I only have one more mock draft, and the person who sent me this one actually only did 3 picks. On PFF, you can pick how many rounds, and the default is 3 rounds, so I think they just didn't set it. But this one's interesting. There's a couple players we've seen, Travis Jones and Alec Pierce. In fact, those 2 are exactly the same spots, right? Are they same rounds? Yeah, same spots as this one. So the only difference is, in fact, this one is interesting because they're doing positionally, interior offensive line and then the same 2 players. Linderbaum's really interesting though because he's the best center in the draft, and sure, I drafted a center / guard later, but like if you're drafting a center in the first round, you're playing, you want to play him, right? Because that's not a position you draft in the first round very often. PFF, I know I've read some of their stuff and listened to them in podcasts, and they've said this is since they've started grading players and doing stuff in the draft, which has not been forever, but it's been 10 years or so. I think he's the best center they've graded out of college. So, but that's an interesting pick to me. I wouldn't go center in the first round because you're not starting him anytime soon. You got my cat in the background, by the way, so that shadows my cat.
I was wondering what that was in the background.
Yeah, it's a cat. That is my cat. His name is Duke Silver, and he likes to get into things. All right. Anyway, so I wouldn't go Linderbaum there unless you're planning to turn him into a guard. I don't know. What do you think, Corey?
If Linderbaum's available at 23, I mean, I'm running to the podium because Linderbaum is Quentin Nelson of this class. Linderbaum is generational interior offensive line. The only real problem with Linderbaum is that he's 290, and that you can fix.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he could play guard, but what's great about this move is Rodney Hudson's only here for another year after this one. I don't know what his contract's looking like. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But if we transfer from Rodney Hudson straight to Tyler Linderbaum, who will have starting experience at guard by this time, I'm kind of digging that.
Yeah.
That I highly doubt he'll be at 23, but if he is, I would not hate this pick entirely. I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, and I think this is what I was thinking about this too, because I wasn't that he has to play center, not guard. Yeah, and I mean, could Hudson play guard? Yeah, but you don't do that. I think Hudson is like one of the best centers. Yeah. So the thing for me is, I mean, Linderbaum is a great player, and I think he deserves to be a first round pick. He's going to be one of the best centers in the league. I just think if you're the Cardinals, you don't want to put him at guard. He's a true center. He's going to be one of the best centers in the league. You draft him to play center, and you draft him to start in year one, and that's not the situation the Cardinals are in. So I just and I get it. I mean, Hudson's older, but you've committed, you've invested in getting Hudson. You're going to start him. I'm just not going to do that. And then I like Cards can draft a center late to develop. They had Michael Manet to develop, but he might be with the Green Bay. Yeah, I think he's somewhere else now. Manet was just
he didn't even make the practice squad.
I think he was on the practice squad briefly, but he's gone. Manet didn't have the physical tools. I think I think what you draft a developmental center who has physical tools but needs some refining.
They did the opposite with Manet. He had the mental tools, but not the physical tools.
Yeah. And then JP saying, Heim never invested in offensive line, hence Kyler's mad. Listen, I think they need to draft offensive linemen early. I just think Linderbaum's not the right one to draft there for them.
I think I don't mean to cut you off here, but I think if Linderbaum's available at 23, you waive this pick in the air. And if you don't want to draft Linderbaum, you waive this pick in the air. Whoever wants the center, highest bidder, come take it, because we can get a lot for this pick for Tyler Linderbaum.
Yeah. And that's a fair point. Trade, and I'm a big fan of trading back. So maybe what you do is if Linderbaum's the best player on the board, you find someone who wants him badly enough, you trade back, get a player you're going to get you might be more interested in anyway, pick up a pick, right? So a couple comments I want to that's the last mock draft we have. So I want to maybe get some comments, respond to some comments and questions here. Let's see, and then Diego Perez saying, if I had to choose between Tyler and Kenyon, yeah, me too.
I pick Kenyon. Yeah.
Absolutely. Jordan P's doubling down. He thinks Jordan Davis is the best scheme fit. We play 3-4, need a DT that can take 2 blocks. Davis is born. Yeah, I mean the tough part about that. I mean he could work for the Cardinals, and he's really good at that. He could
work, but he also couldn't.
I just know from the tape I watched of the Cardinals, they don't play that traditional 3-4 front very often. They're playing in nickel so much, and that nickel front is actually like a 4-2 front. Now he could be one of those interior defensive linemen. They do they do the 2 interior defensive linemen, then they do like their outside linebackers. They really play them like 4-3. It's really like a 4-3 defensive line, except with 2 linebackers. And then they have the nickel corner. They play that a lot. And in that look, you can get Jordan Davis as one of those interior defensive linemen, and he can do it. Absolutely. I just like, Wyatt as a better fit for that, but they're both great. I'm not going to be upset if they get any of them, either of them. Let's see, a couple other comments. Let's see, Jordan Davis. And that was another thing I read about him is he didn't play, like he didn't play. There's some questions about his durability or his I don't know, I guess what the word is. There's another word for that I'm looking for. Endurance, maybe. He didn't play a ton of snaps and seemed to get a little win. And he's a big guy. With big guys like that, there's really big guy. He's bigger than
he's 6'6", 340. I mean,
right. So
his nickname is Godzilla. I mean,
right. Another question: what about returners? Kirk's returning. Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting someone who, I
wouldn't mind getting one, but I would love to have Rondale Moore do it more often.
Yeah, he had some issues with muffing some punts, but I wouldn't mind seeing
one. Wasn't his fault. One wasn't his fault. One wasn't.
But anyway,
the ref literally, I've never seen that before. The ref hit the ball with a flag. I've never seen that before.
The Jacksonville game. But like, I know I'd like to see him. I wouldn't mind if they drafted someone, but let's see. Yeah, and this is, I think, that point. Scouts have questions. Durability, played significant time. Let's see. Another vote for Ariza. See, Wolf, everyone likes Ariza except you, right?
Except you.
We've got a question. Okay, how do you think now the combine holdout will affect the draft? Actually, it sounds like they resolved that. So I saw them. I know if you aren't following, they wanted to create sort of a bubble for the combine, but there was a lot of pushback, and the pushback was because it's not just because people saying, "Oh, I don't want to do that," but like, players go to the combine and they bring with them their agencies often hire like coaches, trainers, nutritionists, a whole team of people that go with that scout there to help them prep for and everything. And with the bubble they were wanting to do, a lot of those hired kind of staff and trainers and coaches weren't going to be allowed to be there. And if you're an agent and a firm, and you've got a prospect who, is trying to be a first-round pick or trying to go early, you have a lot invested in that player. And so all these little competitive advantages matter. So that was what the pushback was for. What I heard is they've backed off on that. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. If it does become an issue again, or were to be an issue, what I think, you think about it, what was going to happen, think about what happened in the 2020 draft with COVID, and they didn't have a combine. The draft still went off. I think maybe, it affected how some of the decisions were made in terms of players that were picked. I think it would be a lot like that. What ends up happening is if players boycott, you have less information, but they've gone through drafts like that before. So I don't know. Let's see. I'm hearing this comment. Do we believe if Chen walks the front office will find adequate replacement, especially in drafting? There's a point where we have to give them, where we have to let them do that. And if they don't, then eventually they'll move on, let's see.
Bidwell's getting a short temper though. Bidwell can only take so much.
Yeah, I think this is the year where it make or break for sure. Real like Breece Hall running back. We let Chase go. We should draft him second round if he's there. I love
Breece Hall. I really love Breece Hall.
Yeah, he's a good player. I'd rather wait later in the draft. That's just me. I'm not anyway saying anything about the player. Oh, we've got an echo. Hey, but like I'm a believer in day 3 drafting running backs on day 3. All right, so let me and then Kirk's legacy, Giles Jackson would be a good returner. When he was at Michigan, he had 2 return touchdowns, and one of them was for 97 yards. All right, so we're good. Let me get everyone now. now that we've kind of gone through the mock drafts and we had some conversations, let me get folks to start putting in the chat who was your favorite pick of any of the mock drafts, the player that you liked better to you that you thought was the best pick that on any of the mock drafts. So go ahead and put that in the comments, and then we'll kind of go through there. And while that's going on, I just want to real quick do a thing that I forgot to do my last live stream, but I want to acknowledge and thank all the channel members, including one Mr. Red Sea, who is part of the TCR Ring of Honor. So I want to thank everyone who helps support the channel. Mark Jackson, who was in here earlier, a few other folks that I think, I don't know if any JP is in here. So want to thank everyone who helps support channel. You may or may not have noticed, including Mr. Red Sea here, and I've been investing back in the channel. I've talked about this before. We've got a new mic. I've got a new camera that looks really fancy and lighting and everything. So, your support is appreciated, and I'm trying to invest in it to continue to make better content. So let's see who we like. Some of the best. So Mr. Mono likes Jermaine Johnson. That was his favorite pick. Wasn't that one of yours? Was that your own mock draft? Let's see. Or was that? No, that was actually okay. You're not doing self-interest. That's right. That was Robert Morris, Jermaine Johnson. Okay. So we got to vote for Jermaine Johnson, Kenyon Green, or Ariza. Hey, a lot of love for Ariza. Right?
I mean, yeah. If you were going to ask me the question, I was going to say either Jermaine Johnson or Matt Ariza.
Yeah. So Kenyon.
The only reason I didn't pick him because he literally was not in the pool of players that I could pick. I didn't want to use PFF.
Let's see, Kenyon Green. That was on Anthony Kennedy's, which I think a lot of people like in Anthony's draft here.
I love that draft. That's probably my favorite draft of the group. My favorite pick is Matt Ariza. It has to be. That guy's a stud.
We got to vote for one of yours. We got Leo. Okay, awesome. If Kenyon Green dropped, that would be your favorite pick. Could be a steal at that junk. Yeah, 100%. I don't think he'll be 100%. There then. But yeah, we can see Sean. I look like Sean Connery. Sean Connery is a handsome man. That's a really bad accent, but Sean Connery. Yes, thank you. Let's see. Jordan P's down to fix the line ASAP. Yeah. So Kenyon Green was that was one of yours. All right. So we got a couple different votes. Leo. Green, let's see, getting the guy from North Dakota State in 4th round would be great. Let's see, which one was that?
North Dakota, what position? North Dakota State.
Oh, was that let's see, was that one of yours? Yours don't say what college they're from.
No, I didn't have any North Dakota State.
Well, the North Dakota State I see here is the receiver, Christian Watson. He's actually got him in the 5th round.
6'5". Yeah. Wow.
All right. Okay. Nice. Hoping Benjamin gets more touches. I think there's a good chance.
I really hope so.
What about Traylon Burks if he falls? He's so good. Yeah, that's a guy I've been looking at too. Like
Traylon Burks won't fall.
Probably not. He's the he's another one of those big receivers, right? That from Arkansas, and that's a guy I like. I just don't know if he'll be there, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like. I know I'm going defensive line, and offensive line early more, but if earlier more in the drafts, but if there's a big receiver early, I'm open to that if it's a stud. Let's see, Kyler Gordon though, they got a Washington factory over there. Keith Taylor Jr. seems to be be a year away from starting. Okay. Let's see. Christian Watson. That's telling us who that was. Yeah. Personally think we should draft an inside linebacker like Lloyd. I'm telling you, man. He keeps showing up as available, sliding when I do my drafts. And I
like the two line. It's bad because I love the two linebackers at the top of the class, Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean. I love those two linebackers, but we can't get a linebacker for the 3rd year in a row. We can't, right? Hopefully.
Oh man, it would be such a joke. It would. I mean, it would be a meme. It would just be, yeah.
In the past 5 years, we drafted 2 quarterbacks and 3 linebackers. So yeah.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
Yes, Watson, North Dakota State, an ex-receiver. Nice. Yep.
I will watch all the tape. I haven't seen much of
would
him.
like to get.
I would love John Mechie. I would love John. I don't think he'll be available when we pick in the second round, but I would love John Mechie.
Mr. Brown is wondering if the Bengals will trade up to pick OL offensive line. We might be able to trade back, so since he can get a pick.
That'd be actually the best case scenario. If if the Tyler Linderbaum's there, we would be picking really late. But if Tyler Linderbaum's there, Cincinnati's going to mortgage their future to go up and get him.
Yeah.
That would actually be real. That would be best case scenario for us.
Jordan P., you think we get another linebacker, move Simmons to safety, play 3 safety defense would help tremendously.
Honestly, when our nickel look is out, we normally play like either Jalen or Buddha and as a nickel corner, and then Simmons plays a safety role.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of what we do already, but we don't officially announce that.
I don't want to take another linebacker in the first round. I mean, middle linebacker, you can get them a little bit later if you really wanted to do that, but I don't know. Yeah, cornerback factory up in Washington. Yeah, okay. All right, so we had 3 mock drafts that were submitted. We had my mock draft, your mock draft. We're going to do this next Monday. Corey and I will each prepare one player that we'll kind of just talk about that we're kind of find it interesting, kind of like we did earlier. We'll each do another mock draft. And if you would like to get your mock draft in here, read the instructions below in the description below. And what all you need to do is do a mock draft. I've got links to some of the different websites. There's like 4 different websites we can do them in the description, and then tweet it at me. If you absolutely are not on Twitter and refuse to get on Twitter for any reason, then join Discord. There's a Discord link also below. We've got a nice group in there that chats throughout the week. But get me your mock drafts before next Monday, and I will get as many of them in the show as I can, and we'll talk about them like we did tonight. And the Grandizer, thank you for reminding everyone. 25 awesome people watching, only 15 likes. Please hit the like button, get over 20. Yeah, please do that. It really helps with YouTube kind of recommending the channel. And let me also do one last pitch. If you haven't watched my video, I did a video last night, 5 budget free agents that I think would be options for the Cardinals. I kind of went through and looked at 5 players that aren't going to cost a ton that I thought would kind of hit some key needs for the Cardinals. And I think, they need to get some big names in here, but they also need to do, I think, a lot of smart moves to fill some holes. So check that video out. I think you'll enjoy it. Grandizer, thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate great job today. Awesome content. Keep the great work job. Thank you for being here. I appreciate the support of the channel, especially like I said, you're not even a Cardinals fan and you're in here, and that means a lot to me. I really appreciate that. Red Sea, do you have a Twitter handle? Are you on Twitter? I
have a couple. I never really used Twitter that much.
Okay.
So it's Instagram or Discord would probably be a better way to get in contact with me.
Okay. So if you, we'll get your information out there, but you can find him in Discord. Yeah. So please do drop a like. Thank you all for being here. We're going to wrap this up. We'll plan to do this every week. Really enjoyed talking draft with you, Corey. Enjoyed talking with the chat. And we'll do this, like I said, we'll do this every week for as we get close to the draft, and we'll all learn more about these players together, and we'll come up with the perfect draft that's all punters. All right. All right.
Matariza in the first round.
Yes. Matariza, first round. All right. Awesome. Mr. Mono's on the Discord. Appreciate everyone. We'll see you next time. Have a good night. Peace.